All right, hey traders, this is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group with your trade idea of the day. And so today was pretty light in terms of option activity. Volatility was present. We saw a global dip in equities, and for me, on days like this, is what I really want to pay attention is to what are people buying, if anything at all. And today again was lighter than normal in terms of buying. But what did traders go into, and what did they think was attractive at these levels? So this was one trade that caught my eye today. It's the AAXJ, and you're probably saying, "What the hell is AAXJ?" So I'm going to go into that and provide you some details into what it is. But it's an ETF. It's called the Asia X Japan ETF. So it's a bunch of Asia equities without Japan in it. All right, so they strip that out. So it really, when looking at ETFs, it's important to look at the individual names, what sectors they are, what countries they are. And that will kind of give you a sense if you like the trade rather than just looking at a label or the description of what it says of just saying Asia X Japan. You don't really know what it is. What kind of companies is it? What kind of sectors is it? All right. So bottom line, this was a pretty decent trade. It was not a sweep, and most of the time trades that go up this size, they just are not swept. This was a $1.2 million premium trade. I looked. I did not see it go up versus stock. But nevertheless, it's a $1.2 million of exposure into this AAXJ through the option trade. So they went out, and the other thing I like about this trade is they didn't go February, they didn't go March, they went out to June. So they're giving this trade some time to work. I think by the trade size, they believe in it. So June 87. So first of all, where is this on the technicals, right? So a lot of these stocks have had a big run. If we zoom out a little bit, you can see it's a pretty nice uptrend. We crossed the 200-day moving average all the way back here, and we've been up and away. Checked back to the 50-day moving average a couple times, and then we've taken another leg higher here. So, so one thing I like about this trade is it's going out far in time. It's not super far, but June. We've got about a little bit less than. A little bit less than 6 months away. So that's a decent amount of time. They're going out of the money, so they're going up to the 87 strike, which is a decent amount up here. That's all the way. You can't see it on the chart, so I've got to bring it up over here. The other thing I like about this trade is they're not buying it on a 52-week high. They're coming in, and they're coming, just as I said in the beginning of the video, they're taking a shot at this after a move from 83.52 and a check back into some support right around $80. So about off. Where's this thing? Where did this thing close? 81.17. A couple dollars, about $2.50 off the high. All right. So that's. I think from a technical standpoint, it's into the 20-day moving average. I think what you would want to see here, if you're in this option trade with me, is you don't want to see it break and go to the 50-day moving average. I think you're going to want to see some confirmation that it holds the 20, even if it takes a little bit of time. But between the 20 and 50 is kind of no man's land. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. If it breaks the 20, I will probably get out of it, considering the gap that it's got to go down to the 50. And then I think you would want to reassess at that point. So that's how it lines up technically. I think 87.5, if we continue at this pace, is doable in 6 months. So what is in this thing? What is in the AAXJ? So let's go to the description. You could see just from Bloomberg what it mentions is it's an ETF, and it seeks investment results as corresponds to the pricing you'll perform to the MSCI All Country Asia X Japan Index. Right? So that should clear it up for you. Perfect. I'm just kidding. So this is what the allocations are. So it's 15% internet companies, it's 12% banks, it's also 11% semis. So it's a little overweight tech and semiconductors, internet companies. You also have some financials in here. You've got a little bit of energy in here. It's a lot of China. So it's a big exposure to China, South Korea, and you're going to see why. Hong Kong as well, Taiwan, once we get into the particular names. So if you look at the top holdings of this ETF, number one, Tencent. a pretty big company, right? So that's 6.7% of the ETF. Number two, maybe another company that you have heard of before, Alibaba is 4.5%. Samsung, Taiwan Semi. You take these four names and you kind of that's about 19% of the ETF. Names that you're probably pretty well versed in, or at least Alibaba and Samsung and Taiwan Semi, which Taiwan Semi as well as Alibaba both trade in the U.S. TSM and Baba is right here. So that I think gives it a little bit more context that you're probably familiar with a lot of those names, and then it does have a lot of local names in here. Going back to some of those some of those banks. You can see also Baidu's in here as well. So it's got some overlap. You hear me talk a lot about the KWEB ETF, which is just straight China internets. So it does have some overlap, but it's not a pure play based on it's not a pure play into internets. It's a little bit more diverse, and that's why I like it. I would rather take a position, I think at this point, in something that's a little bit more diverse than just a pure play in the Chinese internet names. What's also pretty interesting is we also saw some call buying in that particular ETF that I just mentioned, the KWEB. Let's see if I can find it here in one of my recaps. And this was, yeah, here it was. This was the May 36 calls. This was back on 117. So just to give you a frame of reference, I did not take this trade because we were at a 52-week high. So January 17th was here. So we have gravitated higher, and we're basically back to where we were when that initial trade went up on the 17th. So kind of interesting. If you did not take that trade in KWEB, we're back to basically where it was where they put the trade on. And you know that there's some good paper in there. They have not taken down that trade, but it just kind of tells you that there's definitely some interest in these names, just like this AAXJ trade on the tape. Also, considering when some of these names report earnings, Bob is going to report this week. Tencent, I believe, reports in the middle of February, so I think you have a little bit of time. I'm not 100% certain on that because Bloomberg's not very good with some of the international equities. But Baba's on the first of the month, so you'll have exposure to Baba through their earnings. And the other thing that the advantage of owning the ETF versus the single name stocks is take a look at the implied volatility. It's only about if we go to the right contract size, you could see that, let me just expand this here and a little further. As these were the 87. Here was the volume today. So if you look at the implied volatility, it's only about a 1782, right? So which is a decent amount cheaper than if you were to buy Baba calls. Again, you're getting exposure. You're not getting a huge amount of exposure, but it's got 5% of Baba in this. But just to put this in context, because I think a lot of option traders, retail traders, do not look at the implied volatility to figure out how expensive something is. So this is almost twice as expensive in terms of implied volatility, which is a component of your option price. So it's a cheaper way to get exposure to this group versus just playing the single names in the options. All right, so that's the trade. I put this trade on today. I got in. I think I paid a little bit more than this. I paid $1.60, but I really like where they came in to this trade. They came in, on a dip, and they gave it plenty of time into this trade. So there's your trade idea of the day. I'm long the AAXJ, again, Asia ex Japan ETF. June 87 calls at $1.60. First target for these will be up at $2. Thanks very much for watching the video. These are the type of videos and trade ideas. This is the type of analysis that we go through in the Tribeca Trade Group every day. So if you're not a member of Tribeca Trade Group, go ahead, check us out, tribecatradegroup.com. You can get half off your first month. Put in coupon code TTG to do that, and you could be a part of the analysis and trading breakdown that we do every day. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.